Hello learners, hope you are enjoying your B.Ed course. I am Dr. Amit Kaurs, Professor and Dean Faculty of Education, Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. Today we will be discussing levels of teaching. Let me discuss about levels of teaching. There are three levels of teaching, my friends. One is memory level of teaching, which is considered to be least thoughtful. Second is understanding level of teaching, which is considered to be a thoughtful level of teaching. And the third in the hierarchy, reflective level of teaching, which is most thoughtful and the most important. Probably why I am talking about levels of learning or levels of teaching, one of the reason is the way we are having teaching learning processes these days. Probably the kind of focus we have on teaching learning, that is only on marks, not beyond that. That is why probably we are not able to produce creative, effective decision maker, effective problem solvers. I think that is one of the most important objectives of teaching learning process, or for that matter education. In that context, I like to make a presentation on different levels of teaching and how as a teacher we can ensure that we not only initiate teaching at memory level, this is very important, fundamental for all kind of teaching, but we should extend ourselves to understanding level also, and the most important, we should move on to reflective level of teaching, which is missing these days in Indian classrooms. First of all, let's make a elaborative understanding about different levels of teaching. As far as memory level of teaching is concerned, it is first and thoughtless level of teaching. It is concerned with memory or mental ability that exists in all living beings. Teaching at memory level is considered to be the lowest level of teaching. At this level, the thinking ability does not play any role. Students only cram the facts, information, formulas and laws that are taught to them. Teaching is nothing but learning the subject matter by rote. The role of teacher is prominent and that of the student is secondary. The study material is organized and pre-planned. The teacher presents the study material in a sequential order which lacks insight. To sum up, memory level of teaching emphasizes on rote memory, and when I am saying rote memory, I am fully aware that without this stage of teaching probably we cannot move on to the other, and for smaller classes probably this is one of the best kind of teaching we can have. For effective memory level of teaching, we have to move through 6 stages of teaching and learning. One stage is preparation. Here the questions are asked to test the previous knowledge of the learner, so that as a teacher I am aware about the entry behavior of the learner, and thereafter I have to tell the students what I have to teach them. So that would be very important, that I have to not only state the topic, but I have to share with them what is the intent, like what I am going to do and what they are going to learn today. And after that the presentation starts, which helps them to acquire more and more facts, more and more principles, more and more phenomena. So in this stage, the theory of mental discipline works. Teaching learning task aims to train the faculty of mind. And when I am saying faculty of mind, probably at this stage we are talking about memorization as one of the faculty of mind. And how do we train this faculty of mind? That is through exercise, by establishing SR, stimulus response connections, quite mechanical through memorization, and gives weightage to law of exercise, which has been advocated by Thorndike. Similarly, Harbatian emphasized implanting great mass of factual information through process of mechanical memorization, that is practice. And from the point of view of theory of conditioning, maybe classical or maybe operant, teaching learning task converts into task of habit formation through repetition. So exercise, practice and repetition, these are 3 most important tools at this level of teaching and learning. There are certain advantages of memory level of teaching. One of the advantage of memory level of teaching is that it suits the nature of cognitive development of young children, as they are unable to comprehend, compare, analyze, synthesize, generalize. Now these are some higher order thought processes, and young child child won't be able to get into these kind of stages. So this is most suited for young children. It is also useful for slow learners. This type of teaching learning is beneficial to those students who are not very good academically. They are slow in their studies. They have limited studies, and this is suitable for lower classes as well. But one of the most advantage of memory level of teaching is that this is prerequisite for understanding and reflective level of teaching. Unless we have memorized few basic things, probably we will not get into the higher order of things. I can give one of the very important example. Like I remember in my childhood days, we used to cram tables. 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 2, 2 twos are 4, 2 threes are 6, like that. And that understanding, that that rote memory, which is done through exercise, practice, help in lot many complicated computations of mathematics later on. So this is fundamental for all the learners. And some of the disadvantages of memory level of teaching are that it encourages rote memory, wherein there is no scope of development of understanding, thinking and reasoning. Similarly, in this type of teaching learning process, teacher has to be autocrat. So the whole classroom climate at this level is authoritative. There is no place for free expression on the part of learner. There is no proper interaction between teacher and student. The students are passive listeners, as the role of teacher is very important here. It has limited utility for life. The type of teaching learning which is just for the sake of memory, it will not have anything good for the life. So there is no guarantee for good retention and reproduction of memorized material also when we are doing all these kind of practices in the classroom. So let us discuss some of the educational implications of memory level of teaching. Let's first talk about the classroom climate. In case of memory level of teaching, the classroom climate at memory level of teaching is authoritarian. In this climate, teacher acts as center of authority, because it is only the teacher who is to design teaching and learning. He is to make them practice, he is to make them exercise, he is to make them repeat even. So the whole center of authority is the teacher. The interaction between teacher and the student is at the lowest. It's basically the teacher who is to exhibit the major role in this level of activity. Every activity at this level is governed by teacher and no thought of student is involved. Therefore, this level of teaching is also called thoughtless level of teaching. Next is role of teacher. At this level of teaching, the role of teacher is very important because he attains authority, he exercises firm and centralized control. He plans the instructionals, he plans the programs, he manages the classroom activities, he directs and controls student learning. He is the sole active agent of the classroom. So the whole activity, planning, execution, evaluation, everything revolves around the teacher. After that, role of the student, I think the role of the student at this level is quite passive, and learners are expected to do good in recall, recognition and reproduction. So whatsoever teacher says, he is to recall that. Whatsoever teacher tries to conduct in classroom in terms of practice or repetition, he is to recognize out of that, and then he is to reproduce what he has learned. So they are totally dependent upon the teacher. Evaluation at memory level of teaching is expected to be recall and recognition type. It is mostly objective type tests which are important, even essay type, but more information oriented rather than comprehension oriented. The second level of teaching is understanding level of teaching. The teaching at understanding level is of higher quality than the one at memory level. It is more useful and thoughtful from the point of view of mental capabilities. This level of teaching seeks to acquaint students with the relationship between a generalization and the particulars. So on the basis of particular information, particular facts, we move on to developing generalizations on the basis of particulars. Between principles and solitary facts, how individual facts, they lead to the development of principles, probably we learn here, and which shows the use to which the principles may be applied. So on the basis of individual facts, we are moving towards development of principles, and how those principles can be applied, that also we learn through understanding level of teaching. This is what has been said by Maurice B.Ed. At this level of teaching, the teacher explains the student about the relationship between principles and individual facts and teaches them how these principles can be applied. At this level, no cramming is encouraged. Let me give you one example on this. For example, 7 multiplied by 5 is similar and equal to 5 multiplied by 7. And when we understand this, earlier we were just, in memory level, we were just cramming. 7 5s are, 7 8s are, 7 9s are, 7 10s are, like that. But now we are also trying to understand how this 7 5s are is similar and equal to 5 multiplied by 7. There are 5 stages of teaching and learning at understanding level of teaching. One is exploration. Here the teacher explores the initial learning of the students by putting some questions. So he tries to understand what student already knows. He tries to find out his interest, his aptitude, general abilities of the students. And on the basis of this, he plans about strategies that he would use in accordance with the environment and situations prevailing there. So this exploration stage helps the teacher to understand the learner's acquaintance with the content he is teaching, and learner's interest, aptitude and general abilities as well. Then second stage at this level of teaching is presentation. The teacher presents the material in small subunits. Then he tries to find out how much the learner have been able to grasp. He repeats the presentation of content till they are able to have mastery over the subject matter. The teacher keeps in his mind the fundamental principle: teach and test, reteach and retest. Third stage is assimilation. At this stage, the student tries to assimilate the knowledge acquired in above stage. It leads to intensive learning and deep understanding by the students. The learners have their individualized study. Then there is tests to see how much the learner have been able to grasp. If their performance in the test is not satisfactory, they are asked for more assimilation. And the fourth step or stage in this level of teaching is organization. The students reproduce the matter in their notebooks without consulting their notes or books. Here they are able to learn how to organize the matter and put it in a systematic way. And last is recitation. The students present the learnt matter orally in the class before the teacher and supposed to make use of generalized principle by applying it in a novel situation. This is basically the objective of understanding level of teaching, wherein you start generalizing, you start inferring on the basis of individual facts. In fact, oral expression of the students reveals clearly their grasping ability as well. Let us come to certain advantages and disadvantages of understanding level of teaching. This helps the students to master the subject matter more effectively than memory level of teaching. Similarly, the subject matter is divided into small units, which makes the process of teaching learning more convenient and easy for the learner during this level of teaching. Understanding level of teaching is useful for higher class students, and here the students are interactive. They are not as passive as they were in memory level of teaching. This type of teaching and learning is important from the point of view of development of the learner with respect to their cognitive domain, and this understanding will be helpful for the learners throughout his life. There are certain disadvantages also of this understanding level of teaching. There is no individual attention paid to the students. Rather, even this level of teaching is more teacher and student centered. Even in this level of teaching, the learner is largely extrinsic motivated. Is not intrinsic motivated. In memory level of teaching, probably it was totally extrinsic motivation. He was not much interested in what's happening, and teacher had to make all the efforts. But here probably there is some kind of motivation to the learner, as if he is to understand and use that information or fact which is being taught in the classroom. And another disadvantage of this level of teaching is subject matter, mastery of subject matter is more emphasized, and there is little effort on the part of the teacher to make them raise the aspiration level of learners, and there is no development of affective domain during understanding level of teaching. So mostly cognitive domain and to some extent cognitive domain is being developed under understanding level of teaching. With this understanding, let's discuss about educational implications of understanding level of teaching. The classroom climate is more democratic. No doubt, even here, teacher is authoritative, but we are moving in a democratic environment. The role of teacher would be more democratic, where the responsibilities are with the teacher. The teacher acts as a leader. He leads his students towards the solution of significant problems of his subject area. There is no centrally exercised control on the students, but students receive direction. This is more important. Teacher at this level acts as a democratic leader. He becomes a leading type of learner among the students. He comes down at the level of the learners, feels the pulse of the students, and then teaches or reteaches things so as to make the matter reach them in the real sense of the word. The teacher plans the sessional work with active cooperation of the students. As far as role of students is concerned, here the learners are active throughout in the process of teaching and learning. They depend upon the teacher in the beginning, but gradually become self-dependent. And here evaluation moves from recall and recognition to short answer type questions. Most of the time, analysis, synthesis, application, all these are tested through short answer type questions. And last among the levels of teaching is reflective level of teaching. This is what every teacher has to learn, that memory is foundation, understanding and then moving to reflection can make our teaching learning process more creative, more problem solving, more exciting. And if we are able to understand and implement reflective level of teaching, probably the objective of effective teaching would be able to will be able to achieve that. So reflective level of teaching is considered to be the highest level at which teaching is carried out. It is highly thoughtful and useful. A student can attain this level only after going through memory level and understanding level. Teaching at the reflective level enables the students to solve the real problems of life. So it is basically aiming at solving problems or problem solving abilities of the learner. At this level, the student is made to face a real problematic situation. The student, by understanding the situation and using these critical abilities, succeeds in solving the problem. At this level, emphasis is laid on identifying the problems, defining it, and finding a solution to it. The student's original thinking and creative abilities develop at this level. And probably if at school level we are able to take up teaching and learning at reflective level, probably we are orienting students towards creative thinking, we are orienting students for research areas also. There are 5 stages of teaching and learning at reflective level of teaching if we have to just implement it. So one thing is that we have to, as a teacher, we have to create a problematic situation, because it's all about developing problem solving abilities in the students, and that could be developed only if on the basis of the content which we are dealing, we create problems rather than telling the content. Now here in this stage we have to create or develop some problematic situations on the basis of the content in which we are dealing. Second is the students have to formulate hypothesis. tentative solutions. So this is the stage where the student will be encouraged to think in a diverse way. He can think, this could be one hypothesis, this could be another hypothesis, another could be another hypothesis, and thereafter he is encouraged to verify hypothesis on the basis of facts and principles and theories which is present there, which has been taught at the time of understanding level of teaching and learning. He is trying to verify the hypothesis. Then collection of data, the students will collect data for given problem, and on the basis of these evidences, collection of data, he will test various hypotheses. Now this is how the student will be developing problem solving ability. This is the way any problem has to be developed. So in reflective level of teaching, students, they are trained to follow a particular step, and wherein there is a lot of flexibility, there is a lot of freedom to formulate hypotheses, to collect data, to verify hypotheses, to test hypotheses. If we are able to conduct this type of teaching and learning, probably we are moving towards higher level of teaching and learning situation. There are certain advantages and disadvantages to reflective level of teaching. The very first advantage is that it develops creativity and original thinking. This is what is the need of the time. If we have to follow ourselves into high ranking institution, if we have to develop institutions of excellence, probably what we require is original thinking, we require original research, we require original publication, and probably that is the way we develop as a nation also. Second advantage is that there is a lot of individual attention which is paid at this level of teaching. All type of learners are benefited by it. The learners of high ability as well as learners of low ability can work on it. It also gives first-hand experience to the learners rather than doing something what others have done. We are trying to solve realistic problems, and we are trying to learn different ways of solving problems. It also helps the learners to be self-disciplined, and the most important thing here is the learner is intrinsically motivated. When there is a problem which is posed by the teacher, the student is really interested in the solution of the problem, and he is the one who is to solve that problem. He is to come out with the novel solution of that problem. It encourages us to cooperate and work hard. We need to learn together for longer period of times, so cooperation is developed. It is more scientific in approach. It makes learners self-reliant and self-dependent. It develops various skills needed in teaching successfully. It also helps the teacher in becoming effective teachers, and above all, this is good for higher classes and is most psychological, because when the learner is intrinsically motivated, teacher has only to show the path. He is to just support when the help is needed. Otherwise, it is all individualized learning. There are certain disadvantages of reflective level of teaching. This level of teaching cannot work with immature learner. It cannot be worked for lower classes. It is very time consuming. Sometimes it is very difficult to complete vast syllabuses when we are following this approach, but probably that could be handled with the expertise of teacher. But another challenge which we have is that we have lack of expert teachers who can really handle this level of teaching very effectively. This level of teaching is not suitable for all subjects. The subjects which are problem oriented, probably we can work very effectively with this level of teaching. And lastly, educational implications of reflective level of teaching. In case of classroom climate, here the students are left on their own. They decide what they want to do and how they will do it. But yes, teacher is always a facilitator here. He is a director in the whole teaching learning process. Teacher remains in the background. Again, in the competition of the work, the role of teacher becomes prominent when he is to examine the work of the students. Thus, he may be in the background, but he has to play a very active role. And students here are least dependent on the teacher. Initially, of course, yes, but gradually they are busy with the problem. Then they dominate the whole show and try to be independent. The whole work is to explore new things. The learner is active and sincere in his attempt throughout. Evaluation at reflective level of teaching. There is no traditional type of testing for this level of teaching. The students doing wrong things are not checked immediately. They are made to learn out of their wrongs. In fact, it is not easy to test the students at this level. They may be given problem-centered essays, projective techniques of assessing personalities, and so on. To sum up, in my opinion, levels of teaching and understanding of levels of teaching is very important. Because most of the time, teachers, they are busy in teaching in such a manner that the students really cram and memorize a lot of things. At the most, they are made to understand things and reproduce in the examination. Examination is also when we conduct examination, the questions which are coming, they are mostly out of memory level and understanding level. There are very few questions, rather I'll say there are rarely any question on reflection. And that is why probably the classroom teacher is not able to and is not interested into doing teaching at reflective level. But I think for a successful and developed nation, you require teachers who are expert in handling reflection. They are able to create problem solving abilities. They are able to produce creative and thinking students, which is a challenge these days. And teacher education institution has to play a bigger role in this. They have to devise and they have to train their students who are to become teachers in future in those teaching learning practices which can help them to conduct reflective level of teaching at classroom level. Thank you so much.